Good morning, ninth graders. Today we are going to be talking about symbolism. We've gone over symbols and symbolism a little bit this year, but we haven't really dived too deep into it. So we're going to get into it today. There's an attached note sheet on the page. Feel free to fill out notes as you go through this, but of course that is entirely up to you. But the notes might be useful for you down the line, so I would recommend you do so. So what does this mean? Well, that is a heart, right? Or at least a cartoon version of a heart. What does it mean? Well, we'd probably say love, right? Yeah, we'd say that, heart equals love. Specifically, it is a symbol for love. So, symbolism is simply the art of giving either objects or things meaning, making them represent something more than the sum of their parts. So, you've all engaged with the symbols before. We are very, very familiar with symbols. Authors will often use symbolism, though, to try to represent something or communicate something subtly or not so subtly to us while we are reading a book or watching a movie or a TV show or something like that. Some common qualities of symbols. One, they're going to be considered like everyday objects or ideas. More likely than not, objects. That's the easiest for us to kind of discern there. And it's also something that is a universal object or idea. In other words, this is something that you will find in any place on Earth, right? The United States, Australia, China, Japan, Turkey, Afghanistan, Kenya, Brazil, anywhere on Earth is going to have these objects or ideas because, of course, writers, when they use symbols, they want to make them universal so they can be understood by anyone on Earth. Now, do authors use symbols on purpose? Sometimes. Sometimes they do. But it actually doesn't matter. We've talked about whether or not an author's intent is important. The answer is no. But in some cases, authors do use symbols on purpose. We're going to find that Jean Yang, when writing American-Born Chinese, definitely used some symbols on purpose. So let's look at some other examples other than the heart. An owl. Right? Owls are often symbols for wisdom. That's why you see owls for a lot of stuff in terms of like graduation and whatnot. A dove, another type of bird, is a symbol for peace, right? And the symbol a dove being a symbol for peace, we can trace its roots to that back to old literature from the Bible. A smiley face, of course, is a symbol for friendliness. The color green could be a symbol for life. Or when it comes to colors, we can kind of play with things a little bit. It could also be a symbol for disgust. Right? The color red could be love, again, like that heart, or it could be violence. It just kind of depends on the context that you find the symbol in, right? And that, of course, requires us to be able to be paying attention and reading a little deeper into what we are reading. Now, the purpose of a symbol ultimately is to add deeper meaning to a text, just like all figurative language. So all of the different, literary elements and stuff that we talked about when we were going through our short story unit, anything with figurative language, it all adds deeper meaning to a text, allows us to engage with the text just a little bit more and connect with it just a little bit deeper. Now, how do we spot one? So when we are reading a book, like American-Born Chinese, we want to be looking for recurring objects or ideas. So let's take a look here. Book that a lot of you have read, To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a quote. Mockingbirds don't do one thing but make music for us to enjoy. They don't eat up people's gardens. They don't nest in corn cribs. They don't do one thing but sing their hearts out for us. That's why it is a sin to kill a mockingbird. Now, when we look at this little quote here, what do we have that gets repeated? Well, mockingbird gets repeated several times. And of course, the title being, To Kill a Mockingbird, it's in there as well. So that probably tells us that, well, the mockingbird is a symbol. So we'd say that the mockingbird is a symbol. Now let's think about some qualities of the mockingbird. We see from this passage here, they are peaceful, they are small, they are harmless. So we could say that mockingbirds are symbols for innocence or beauty. Now, in the case of this passage, they talk about killing a mockingbird, right? Both the title and the passage itself. So killing, we could say that would be a symbol for senseless cruelty because you're killing something so beautiful and so harmless. Taking a look at another example. This is a poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley called Ozymandias, my personal favorite poem. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear, My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. So, what is this poem about? Well, first, we want to figure out what is the symbol here. Now, we have a statue. That is what is being talked about here. So, the two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. So, two large stone legs stand in the desert. And the word sculptor tells us that it is a statue of some sorts. So, we have this statue, these trunkless legs in the desert. And it is a statue specifically of a king. And if we look back, we notice that it is broken and it is decayed. So, what could we say is the meaning here? Well, this statue could be a symbol for the fact that life and power are fleeting, or they do not last. We could also say that it could be a symbol for the fact that art has longevity, because even though Ozymandias, this king who once thought he was all of that, is no more, nor is his kingdom, the art representing him and celebrating him still is around in some way. So art has more longevity than power and life itself. That could be what that is a symbol for. Let's look at one more example. This is from American-born Chinese. Hair. Right? Now, we have already discussed at length that Jin changes his hair in order to appear less Chinese. He specifically adopts a white hairstyle, that perm. Now, we could say then that hair, the changing hair specifically, is symbolic for assimilation, which was on the Chapter 5 quiz. Assimilation being when you change in order to fit in. Right? So his hair could be a symbol for assimilation. So remember, symbolism is an everyday object or idea with greater literary meaning. When we find these symbols, we're able to figure out a little bit better what writers are trying to communicate with us, and they add a deeper meaning to the text itself. All right, so go ahead and move on to the assignment for exploring some symbols. If you have any questions, reach out, but otherwise, I'll see you later.